It's
Is that what you heard? They could just produce a platinum coin. It's like $3 trillion.
Hey everybody, it's Silver Seeker and welcome back to the channel. Today we have for you a fantastic interview with Mike Sprouse from River City Coin and Jewelry. Mike is a wealth of knowledge, has been around this business for over 40 years, a coin shop owner for over 30 years, and I'm telling you, we didn't even begin to tap in to the amount of knowledge that this guy has. So we will be visiting him again and again. So if you want to see more videos like this, and if you like learning about gold and silver, don't forget to subscribe. And let's go ahead and welcome Mike from River City Coin and Jewelry. Mike, how are you today?
Doing fine, thank you.
So Mike, you've been in this business for 40 years, right? 40 more. So you've been in it for a long time. So even back during like the 80s silver, like when the Hunts Brothers cornered the market, you've been through all this stuff.
I was saving a lot of stuff from the melting pots, and I was paying like $14 for $half and things, you know.
Oh my gosh.
I remember one of the coin dealers there in town asked if any of us had any extra time that he could use some help, you know, during that rush hour. So yeah. I went down to his coin. I thought, I'll come down there on Saturday, you know. So I went down there on Saturday morning, and there's people lined up, you know, to get in there. And I walked in, and I didn't recognize the place because all the counters had been pushed back into the back and on. He had the folding tables and some counters and some 5-gallon buckets. And we were just going through that stuff like crazy. And it was just killing me even to dump some half. I said, oh, it's uncirculated. Walk around. Yeah, but, you know, we didn't have time to do any numismatic searches of that stuff. We just ran it through the count machine and throwed it in the buckets.
So you're saying you think a lot of key dates got melted?
I don't know about the key date stuff, but it's possible. I remember this one couple came in, this elderly couple, and they had to be in their 70s or 80s or something, you know, and both of them had a, you know, something in their hand, you know, and it was all Walking Liberty $half. And they had owned I think it was a barbecue joint or something, an ice cream place, whatever, you know. And so they started saving the Walking Liberty $half when they started making the Franklins, you know. And they had, I think it was like $300 or $400, $500 worth of them. They left there with like 20 grand.
Wow.
And they were so thrilled. I was like,
and that's 20 grand in early 80s.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that's, man, I can't imagine. So tell me this. I mean, you've been in this for so long. I mean, let's talk about the silver market a little bit. Compare that to what's going on today.
Well,
if it's even possible, or the ups and downs of, you know, what you've seen in the 40 years that you've been doing this.
Well, the crazy thing right now is that the premiums on physical silver products are so high compared to what they've been in the past.
Right. Now,
back then they were only paying like 23 times
right
at the peak of the silver market, but it was $50 an ounce. But then there was trucks lined up,
right,
you know, at the refineries, you know, with bullion and stuff to get, and you didn't get paid until it got in there, and you didn't know what the price was going to be when it finally got to the refinery.
Right.
And so anyway, you were actually, at that time, you could have bought, you know, junk silver and stuff like that at a discount from its actual silver value because there was so much of it floating around. And nowadays, you know, it's a different ball game. Nowadays, most of that silver got melted.
Right.
I mean, it went straight to the melting pot. Thousands and thousands, millions of dollars of coins, you know, went straight to the melting pot.
So back in the 80s when silver, you know, ran up to almost $50 an ounce, and that's in 1980s money. So, you know, obviously with inflation, it's probably north of 100. Did you see much premium on silver back then like you do today?
Oh, no, not at all. Well, I mean, for one thing, not that many people were buying it. I wasn't dealing at the time, obviously. Right. And the only people that was buying it were, well, everybody was buying it. I remember driving down Union Avenue, and there's a Cadillac dealership there. Brand new 1980 Cadillac, only $600 in pre-1964 silver money.
Wow.
You know, and whoa.
That's crazy. So they actually advertised the price. Oh, that'd be amazing because, you know, it's funny, we talk on the channel all the time about, you know, how silver is real money. And it's funny that back then, even during 1980, I mean, that was 16 years after they stopped producing 90% silver $half.
Well, several people ask me, well, where am I going to sell this stuff? You know, if the price goes up. I said, hell, everybody will be buying it. You know, I mean, and I tell them that story about the $600 Cadillac. You know,
man,
pre-1964 silver dollars.
$600 Cadillac, that's incredible.
But you had to have 600 pre-1964 silver dollars.
Well, they wouldn't take 64 Kennedys?
No, I don't think so. They specified silver dollars.
Yeah.
Silver dollars.
Oh, silver dollars, not silver half dollars. When you said pre-64, I was thinking.
Well, Yeah.
So, Mike, let me ask you a bit about your background. You had a background in economics, right? Is that?
I had a double major in college, economics and management.
So can you tell me what the heck is going on today?
I wish I could, man. I mean, you heard from the Treasurer of the United States and used to head up the Federal Reserve that we're not in a recession, even though they taught me that two quarters of declining production, is a recession.
It's funny. I released a video yesterday. I don't think you've seen it yet. I know you watched the channel, but I specifically spoke about that. Powell actually said a day before the GDP came out that he doesn't see a recession because he sees strong numbers in a bunch of different markets. And then the very next day, oh, and by the way, he put a caveat in there that you have to take the first report with a grain of salt because it's always adjusted over time,
Oh yeah. Well, to hear him, the current chairman of the Federal Reserve, and the former chairman of the Federal Reserve, just outright lie about, it said this inflation is just transitory, and of course then to come out and say that, well, no, I don't really necessarily mean we're in recession in 2 quarters, drops in GDP. I'm thinking like, what?
Right.
It always has, for the last 100 years. I mean, anyway, this is a joke. These people that are running our country now are just selling us out. They're doing everything they can to destroy this country. And it's a damn shame because this is a fine country.
I agree with you 100%. It's really scary. I tell people on my channel all the time, and I'd like to hear what you think about this, but it's important to be in things like gold and silver.
Oh, well, that's exactly why I quit banking and got into this business.
Right.
I've been collecting coins since I was 12. And the more I learned about banking, finance, and economics was that, it's hard to make any money. And if you are able to make any money, it's hard to save it.
Right.
And if you are saving it and you're not getting a very good return oftentimes, and you have to pay somebody else to manage it for you, and they're not out, you got your best interest in mind. So there you are. And I figured, well, the only way to keep what I've earned is to put it in gold or silver, something that cannot be inflated out of existence by an illegitimate government, And I'm 4 years too early, but I've been predicting the crash of the dollar for a long time. A lot of people don't understand, like the dollar is held as the world's reserve currency. They got together in the Bretton Woods Monetary Conference, and everybody in the planet agreed to use the dollar as as the world reserve currency. And on commodity prices are in dollars. So if you wanted to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, then you're Germany, you had to buy dollars to give Saudi Arabia for the oil.
Right.
And of course I said, it's just a matter of time before the dollar loses its status as a world reserve currency. And then there'd be a 35 or 40% collapse in the value of the dollar, followed by a longer collapse later. I don't think we'll get into Venezuela, Argentina type of situation, or Venezuela, whichever one of those countries.
Venezuela, yeah.
Yeah, because we're too advanced and all, and we're all armed to the teeth too, so they can't take our stuff away. I remember reading a quote tribute to one of the Japanese, warriors back during World War II, said that they didn't dare try to invade America because there's a gun behind every bush.
Right.
And that's pretty much the only thing that's keeping us free.
So how do you think we get out of this? I mean, the government now is $30.6 trillion in debt. Even our deficit is north of $1 trillion. That's just insane.
Well, the way we get out of it is getting conservatives back in charge of Congress and investigating all this illegal activity that's been going on behind the scenes. It's not being investigated because the Justice Department is got their head stuck in Biden's. And they're not going to do anything about any of this. And so we're going to have a whole new change of government up there. I've been saying for years that if they've been up there more than 2 or 3 terms, they're part of the problem, not the solution.
Right. Do you believe the term limits in the government?
Oh, hell yeah. In fact, one of the few entities that I contribute a lot of money to is the Convention of States. And I encourage all of y'all to look and see and read about the Convention of States. There's 2 methods by which a Constitution can be amended. One is if the Congress calls for a convention, and the other is the state legislatures call for a convention. And so right now we've got 17 or 18 states that's signed off on having a convention, and a lot of others. Now there's 33. We need 33, and now there's 33 states, as it turns out, that's controlled by Republican legislatures. So we stand a good chance now of reaching that magical number of 33. And if we do, then there could be a convention called, and delegates will be appointed. And like the Congress can't stop it, the Supreme Court can't stop it, the president can't executive order it, not to happen,
right?
Because it's in the Constitution. And I said that's the only way we're going to be able to get this country back under control is to term limits would be one of the things, balanced budget. The Congress can't pass any laws that they're not subject to. Do away with this insider trading that's going on, and just blah, blah, blah. So there's at least 7 or 8, really important amendments that could be made to the Constitution to improve our chances going forward, of putting this country back on sound footing.
Right.
But it starts right there with term limits is the main thing. And balanced budget is only possible if we do have fresh blood in there all the time.
I can't imagine how the government could balance the budget that we have right now. It's
what you heard? They could just produce a platinum coin. It's like $3 trillion.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. That's great. Yeah, that solves all of our problems.
Yeah, put that in the Federal Reserve.
That's not what causes inflation at all.
I cannot believe. If you'd have told me, 10, 15 years ago that this country would be in this position, I would laugh and say, "There's no way," But here we are. The leadership of this government is taking the country down the tubes, and there ain't a hell of a lot we can do about it except vote them out and put some fresh blood in there. That's about the only way. And even then, I'm not so sure it's not so far gone that we can't fix it.
So let me ask you a question I don't think you're going to be able to answer. How does the common man who gets up and goes to work every day, has to support a family and buy a house in this economy, how the heck does he do that? It blows my mind. Just thinking about 10 years ago, I bought my house about 10 years ago. And if I had to do it today, I'd be.
For one thing, it's hardly any, with the cost of living is so high that it's hard it's impossible to save any money to make for as a down payment. And a lot of these kids are coming out of college with huge college loans, and they're going to be paying on those for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And how can they save any money toward a home or something if they're having to pay all these student loans? And I knew it was a bad move when the government took over the student loan program back a few years ago. So they're responsible for all this. The colleges ought to have to pay all that. The colleges ought to eat that.
I have a friend who is a lawyer, and his wife is in marketing. They both have, I don't know the exact number, but he's kind of hinted at me that his monthly student loan payment is north of $2,000 between him and his wife, not just us. Right. I just don't understand how you make it like that. Like if we go into a massive recession, like I'm talking massive, I'm not talking what we experienced, the short blip in COVID or what we did, the last main, I'm talking
food lines, man.
Right. And I know, people, they hear people talk about that and they say that we're all doomsdayers, but I mean, just
realist. I'm a realist.
Right.
I'm not predicting this is going to happen. I'm saying there's a strong possibility that it will.
Right.
And people need to start to prepare for such an occasion. And that means to store some food up, have plenty of bottled water, guns and ammunition, and to barter, if the currency collapses and the bank credit cards and checking accounts are no good, you got to have something you can barter with to trade with other parties, and silver, dimes, quarters, and half dollars is one of the prime bargaining tools because 10 dimes equals 4 quarters equals 2 halves equals $1.
Right.
And there's the very little likelihood of it being counterfeit. So, people are not afraid to take it, in a situation. So, I mean, if you've got some, when the Depression hit in 29, and the bank, collapsed and all that, if you'd gotten out of the stock market ahead of time and just be in cash, or cash was gold and silver back then, you made out like a bandit. And then like in 1980, worst inflation we ever had, if you had gold and silver, you made out like a bandit.
Right. So,
I mean, come hell or high water, gold and silver is a thing to have in a worst case situation because it's been money since time began. And the person can assure themselves of being able to acquire items they can't produce if they've got something that you can barter with.
Right.
And silver is the best for that, if anything. And it's a better investment than gold too, I think.
So looking at this current market, I mean, you kind of spoke on it at the beginning when we started talking, but with the premiums right now, I mean, what do people do to? There's no way to get away from premiums. We all know that, but right. I mean, they're so high right now.
Well, I have to explain to people what's going on here. I say, okay, the paper price of silver, that's what you see when you see spot. That's the paper price on the contract of commodity exchange. And if you're able to buy it, a contract, and when the contract matures, you can take possession of that silver at $20 an ounce, but they give you 5 1,000-ounce bars, and you've got to pay the fabrication and shipping charges to give them your location. Then what the hell are you going to do with them?
Right.
So I mean, they don't just pull silver eagles out of the mines. There's a lot of process involved in turning that into coins and what have you, and those costs have gone up. Energy costs, labor costs, insurance costs, et cetera, all those costs have gone up. So even though the price of silver has fallen, the cost of producing it is not. And that's part of the reason the premium is so high. But it's mostly because of the demand so far exceeds the available supply. And I explain to people what's going on here as best I can. And I said, look, if silver goes to $100 an ounce, you're not going to care if you pay 20 or 30 or 50. You're just going to wish you'd bought more.
Right.
I said, so I don't really care when I got extra money. I just order some silver. I don't give a damn. I don't even really care what the price is.
Right.
It might be more than I sold my recent silver for. I don't care. I'm just getting more silver what I can.
Yeah, and you spoke on how hard it is to get right now. I heard you talking to a customer earlier when I was waiting for the interview. You said that you had placed an order that's taken 7 weeks.
7 weeks.
Wow.
Ordered it the day before yesterday.
Wow, 7 weeks.
7 weeks.
I don't know. I've argued against there being a shortage of silver, but sometimes I wonder when I hear stories like that from people that do this. Maybe I don't know if shortage is the right word. Maybe it's. I mean, get into that.
Okay.
Is it a supply chain issue? Is it?
It's part that. But the real thing is the paper price of silver is so low because the banks announced that they're going to sell 10 million ounces of silver or whatever. And they don't have 10 million ounces of silver in the vaults, or if they do, but that shouldn't be allowed. I can't sell you 100 ounces of gold if I don't have it.
Right.
The paper saying you got it is worthless. Right. With real life situation. So anyway, what's going on right now is the Commodity Futures Trading Commission was established to maintain a level playing field between producers and consumers of various commodities.
Right.
And silver and gold is a commodities like wheat and pork bellies, And it's my understanding it's a 5-member board on the CFTC. And I think there's only one that's been appointed. And there's only one on there now. And they're totally ignoring their responsibilities because there's no way that silver is worth, just $20 an ounce. I mean, by all rights, it should be at least $100 or $110 an ounce right now.
Right.
To maintain the 3,000-year relationship between silver and gold. And so they're just under, the stuff is being held down in value so the bank can acquire as much of it as possible. They make money shorting it and playing it long. And They take their profits and buy physical silver. And that's creating a shortage in physical silver, which is leading to these high premiums we're having to pay for it. Gotcha.
So I'll ask you one more question. I know you're getting busy, so we'll get off here. But there's going to be thousands of people that watch this video, what advice would you give them? What would you do right now if you were in the everyday man's shoes?
If I had some stocks or bonds, I would consider cashing them out and buying some silver.
Okay.
And maybe some gold. If you're buying, if you've got $20,000 to invest, maybe you want to buy 10,000 and 10,000. But I would put the whole 20 in silver myself.
Yeah.
Because it has it could easily double or triple it as it has already this year. It's been like $50. And at $20, it could double. Right. Gold was up to 2,050.
Right.
And it's sitting at around 1,900 right now. And that's not likely to double or triple in the near future, where silver could, just like that.
Right.
So, it's a no-brainer. But yeah, you should acquire some physical silver, and I recommend 90% silver. Silver Eagles the premiums on Silver Eagles right now is about $15 over spot, unless you buy 500 from a wholesaler.
Right.
And then it's $12.50 over spot.
Right.
So I got to pay like $12.50 over spot, which is like $32.50 a piece. So I'm selling them for like $35.
Right.
If you want just silver bars or silver rounds, you can get that right now for around $30, $25.
Right.
For 10-ounce bars. So I would consider converting whatever I could in a way of savings into gold and silver.
Okay.
Because the interest rates now and the yield versus the rate of inflation, you're paying the banks to keep your money.
Right.
And that don't make any sense at all because they got plenty of money, and it's just not right. But yeah, I would suggest gold and silver, guns and ammunition, unfortunately, to protect your gold and silver.
And food reserves just in case.
Oh, absolutely. Food and water, don't forget that. That's critical, But if you've got silver, you can trade for food.
Right.
And like the beauty of the not constitutional silver is that it's, like I said, 10 dimes equals 4 quarters equals 2 halves. Now, that farmer will take, he'll sell you that chicken for a dime, silver dime. And if all you got's a silver quarter, he'll take that too.
Yeah.
He ain't got no change. You know what I'm saying? So, it's best to have something like that, and it works out really well.
Awesome. Well, hey, Mike, thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're definitely going to come back and visit again if that's okay.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
I really do.
And there you have it, guys. That was Mike from River City Coin and Jewelry. Like I said earlier, don't forget to subscribe. It's free for you and really helps me out, so I definitely appreciate that. And thank you guys so very much for watching. We will see you next time.